What's up guys, it's Jesus again here and welcome back to another video, where in today's video, the entitled mother wants to steal my van. Entitled mother tries to steal my van job. First of all, I'm Swedish, so please excuse any typos. I work as pest control. It's a pretty fun job. I get to meet lots of people every day, and I see a variety of entitled people as well. People are glad to see me, and sometimes people jump up with happiness that the Wasp Man has finally arrived. Yep, that's my favorite nickname. So you'll just be as surprised as I was that this story isn't about that. I just completed a good day's work. 2 rat jobs, 2 bed bug jobs, and 4 wasp jobs. When I realized it's only 2 in the day when I get off 4:30. I head to the office and thinking about all the fun, sales/paperwork stuff I can do to ease out this month's paycheck. We usually get to 5 to 10% of commissions on all jobs that we do. That's about over $400. I park my car and start reaching for my pockets to lock the car, when I suddenly hear a child yelling, "I want that one!" So I look over to see a kid running over it with her Karen-looking mom, right behind her. The mom keeps her distance, but the kid is really interested in the car. It's a brand new VW Caddy Maxi, so I fully understand her. I go up to the kid and start talking to her about the car. In Sweden, we don't talk about that norm about only pedos talking to small kids, so it's socially acceptable. And then starts talking to her about what I do for a living, giving her the same approach I give all curious kids. She, of course, doesn't pay any attention to me and manages to open the passenger door. I carefully close the door again so I don't get her fingers in between by accident and tell her that's not okay. So I feel a hand on my shoulder, and it's Karen's mom. "How dare you not let my kid get in the car? You're done with it and now it's our turn to use it." I looked stunned by what the Karen had just said, until I fully remembered that our office is neighbors with the car rental company. "Oh no, ma'am. As you can see, this car has my company logo on it. We are neighbors of that car rent." I said before I was abruptly interrupted. "This is outrageous. I would demand to talk to your boss. You can't just refuse a customer," she says snarkily, getting close to me so I can smell the free coffee from the rental place offers. "Listen," as I say calmly as possible, try not to fold this woman's clothes while she's still in them. "This is property of company with NX on their logo, not specific car rental place. As you can see if you can compare the logo above the door you just walked out of, the logo on my car and the logo on my clothes." Without even double checking, she just frowns and says, "You're lying! I demand you to get the manager." Fed up at this point, I say, "Okay," and go in to grab the boss of the rental place. We'd had lunch several times before, and I have even sold him some stuff off the clock. When we get out, I see the entitled mom is in my driver's seat, and the little kid is trying to jump in the passenger seat. I reach for my pocket when I realize that the keys that's for an entire brand new van, containing more poison in it than it needs to kill an entire football stadium, is in the freaking van. I run up to the car, and lucky for me, the stupid cow doesn't know that the newer cars you don't need to put a key in an ignition, and tries to search around the car for where to put the keys in. I forcefully drag her out the car, and when she does, he does the typical drama thing and goes entirely limp, as if to make it seem I'm using way too much force and it's hurting her. As soon as I get her out, she starts crying on the ground and yelling that I broke her arm. The boss of the rental place comes around to our side and starts shouting at the Karen, telling her, "And this is why you were kicked out of our store. You can't just steal people's cars." Suddenly, she amazingly jolted back to her normal self and exclaimed, "I'm calling the police and telling them that you two just beat me up and touched my little girl, pedos." We just laughed and pointed at the camera, pointing square at the piece of parking lot. Defeated, she stood up, grabbed her kid, and muttered away. All while the little kid was crying that she didn't get to go in my car. Lovely day. Alright guys, here's the next video. My mother told me that she and my father are getting a divorce in a Jersey Mike's parking lot. My parents, 57 male and 51 female, separated 2 years ago when I was 16 female. Had the news broken to me in the most bizarre way. So I took this place on a Tuesday, 3 days before Christmas. My mother was running an errand and she made me tag along with her. We went to the bank, grocery store, etc. Around 2 p.m., my mother wanted to stop and get lunch, so she pulled into the shopping center and sees a Jersey Mike's, which is a sub shop for those who don't know. She orders inside and brings food back to the car for us to eat because she didn't want to eat inside the shop. I wonder why. She brought me back a sub and I took a fat bite of it. She turns to me and goes, "I want to talk to you about something." Immediately, in my head, I'm thinking, "Oh God, who died? I kinda wish it wasn't that." Thinking back on it, she says, "Your father and I are separating." My stomach drops suddenly, and I don't want my sandwich anymore. Now considering how my parents interact with each other, it was not the most surprising news, but it was still shocking nonetheless. The kick comes when she points to an apartment complex across the street from the Jersey Mike's and says, "That's where my new apartment is, and that's where you'll be staying with me." Pause. She doesn't ask me if I'm okay. She doesn't explain how this came to be. Normally, I would assume that if your parents are separating or divorcing, both parents would sit you down in a living room or something and tell you together or they're divorcing. Nope. My mother took it upon herself to just randomly decide this was happening 3 days before Christmas. Then she pulls up to the car outside the shopping center and into the parking deck of the apartment complex. And she gives you a little tour of this fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment with everything in my room tailored to the things I like. Color, theme, trinkets, my name engraved on the things. This has obviously been in the works for quite some time. My father calls me later in the day saying that he had no clue that my mother wanted to separate. She never talked to him about it, and he had no clue that she had the whole apartment ready for him to move into. Needless to say, he was not happy. I will preface this by saying I heavily prefer my father over my mother. Now a lot more than ever, but my father worked long hours, so my mom was normally the one who took me to school and from back, and other places, fed up and fed me, bought me clothes, etc. This doesn't mean she was nice to me. In fact, she was often very cold and mean because I was not in the spitting image of her that she wanted me to be in. She would call me ugly and messy because I wouldn't wear my hair like hers, or I wouldn't wear makeup or put on frilly pink clothes and fluffy sweaters. So I begrudgingly stayed at the night in this new place because my mother wouldn't take me home, and she told my father unless he can take me to school and from and feed me and make sure I'm presentable, I won't be living there anymore. My father didn't have the ability to do any of that with his work hours. The only time he went home was on Christmas Eve because I was sobbing on the phone talking to my dad saying that I want to be home for Christmas and not some in random apartment. He called her and she came to my room in all tears because I should love it here with how much she tailored it to my liking, and I am being all dramatic for attention. But she let me go home in the end. I've been in this apartment with her for 2 years now, and it's been heck for a lot for 2 years. This event sent me spiraling down into a depression that I needed to be medicated for. It cost me all my friends because I stopped being social because of the depression. It cost me my high school diploma because I could not finish high school in my mental state. I got a GED instead. Also, my dad came out to finding that she was once used his credit cards to buy everything for this apartment, leaving him with $20,000 of credit card debt. He never saw any legal action because I was not well and he would not be able to take care of me like my mom if I was able to. Fast forward to now, I was doing a lot better this past summer and went to college in the fall. It was great for about a month and a half before I developing a neurological illness that forced me to go home. So now I'm back in this stupid apartment with my soul-crushing mother, and I've really come to despise and resent her. If I can be just healthy for 5 minutes, I'm hoping I can get out here eventually. Well, OP, I hope you can get out there soon. And I feel bad for your father as well, because apparently your mother decided to just divorce him without even telling him at all, and leaving him with $20,000 of credit card debt, which sounds insane to me. That doesn't even sound like entitled parents. That's like a level beyond that. Alright guys, here's the next story. My mom thinks that she's entitled to everything because her childhood was harder than mine. I, 23 female, can't describe with words how I just started to live, but I already feel exhausted. Because of my family. My mother's the main problem. I cut my dad off a year ago. My mom had a really bad childhood where her mother left her and her 2 siblings with the rest of the family. I respect her trauma and I fully support her because of my empathy is not on the toddler level as hers. She had a much worse childhood than me. Mine was also hard, but hers was difficult more. I won't go into details. She's a narcissist. It really fascinates me that my mom thinks I owe her because she was a better mom than hers. She had a worse childhood than me, and I should be thankful. Glorifies the mother role like she's a saint, and thinks that she has the right to everything like she owes me because I was inside her. She had many times guilt tripped me because she sacrificed for me, which I have never asked at all because she was buying basic needs. I can't count how many times I heard that, but all basically in my life. She had always wanted me to understand her because she had a worse childhood than me, and later made some really bad life choices. She always complained that my dad left her with me, and she was SM, and she had never had a hard life because of that. Focusing so much on her pain and dismissing my trauma and pain, never felt truly she understood me. The last 5 years, she didn't buy me anything except for food and something basic sometimes. If I didn't have money, but then, even down, she found a way to make me feel guilty and argue, complaining that she has to buy food and to pay bills, like all living people. It makes you feel like your parent guilt trips you because you exist and it's not for free. I always understood and I always have been on her side since a small child. But I gave my best and I asked for anything and buy everything for myself except food for home and paying bills. So I started something mine aside so I don't depend on her. This year I finished uni and 4 years ago I finished high school. I swear from the moment I turned 18 she was guilt tripping me because I was able to earn money and I'm capable of doing by myself without her help. Can't describe my anger because I am 8 because being 18 is not equal to having opportunities to work a decent paid job to sustain yourself. You're still young, naive, and so little experience in your career. I've never asked for much, that's because I understood our situation. I had to muffle myself for her. It's beyond me that you are a parent trying to use your child for money to pay bills, where I just started uni and it's really hard to work and attend uni at the same time to graduate in 3 to 4 years. Not to fail exams, I just worked season jobs and my side job. In addition, my mother lives in my real estate, and I won't be able to sell it because she wanted to sell it on her terms, or to live there until she dies. Even tried to manipulate me into putting it in her name, and she put a real estate encumbrance on my apartment. I just started my internship, and I already see my mom finding ways to ask for money. Her salary is always late. She sometimes in 3 months late, and she just don't want to change job or do anything about it. So I can never be in peace, never get to be free. She sees that I'm capable to earn, and she will never give up on asking and not even bothering when salary is late because she knows I will loan her money for food. There is no time I earned money that she didn't ask me for a loan. If this was normal, I finally would be happy that I earned and spent it happily in peace because I will finally compensate for stuff I never had. Working on my plan to move out in October after the internship is done, but it's so painful that I am trying to make a steady ground when I leave for my future family. But my mom tries to grab everything because she doesn't want to work. So sad I never asked for how much she wanted something from me all the time. It feels like treason. Feeling really tired from all of this and from my feelings. It's so sad that when your parent is trying to use you. Can't wait for the day to pick up all my stuff and leave her with no contact. Well, P, I'm sorry for your mother that she had a harder life because her mother abandoned her, but that does not give her the right of reason to keep asking you and using you for money and other stuff, just because she had a more painful life than yours. My abusive father wants to meet his grandchild. I haven't seen my father since I was 11. I'm now 24 years old and 30 weeks pregnant, and I've been hiding the info from my abusive, manipulated father. He had no idea, but today he found out and sent me a bunch of messages through Facebook about wanting to meet his grandchild. I only had blocked him because I was hoping to get enough info to get him to put him in jail, or at least take him to court. At first, he thought I was just being hush about the whole thing, so his first message was normal. He asked why I didn't tell him and that he was excited to meet his grandchild. Mind you, he lives very far away from me and has no money to be traveling anywhere. So I told him that he wasn't going to be able to meet his grandchild, and I purposely kept this info away from him. This man had made my life heck while he was around, and even let me, and he gave my mom something about like $20 a month for 3 kids in child support. He physically and mentally abused my siblings when we were kids, and yet argues that he never did anything and that my mom brainwashed us against him. In terms of emotional abuse, he never paid any attention to us. He never showed up to any events he said he would, and he miraculously got a girlfriend, and he started leaving us alone with her on his weekends, just so he could work when he was around, and we either had to do what he wanted or he was sleeping. Yet if my mom tried to make plans that would fall on his weekend, then he would argue to heck and back about it being his weekend and him wanting to spend time with us. Now, in terms of physical abuse, he did a lot of this time in the name of punishment for wrongdoing. If someone wants to physically punish their kids, that's on them, but he took his discipline way too far. If he caught me sucking on my thumb as a child, he would hit me with the buckle part of his belt, or smack me hard across the face that I would fall onto the floor. I broke a dish once, and he slammed my head against the table. When I broke something else, he picked up a glass jar and oh, I don't want to say that. He would punch my brother so hard in the stomach that he would make him sick. My mother wasn't spared in either while they were married. She finally got away when I was 5, but she didn't know about his abuse towards us because he never did it in front of her, and we were too scared to tell her, but he choked her, punched her, etc. He got married to his GF when I was 10 and a year later moved out of state with her. Me and my siblings tried to warn the poor woman, but she had my father in her ear telling her that my mom was just being jealous, and my siblings and I just didn't want him to be married to anyone but our mom. So a year later, she was back in our state and had divorced him. She had contacted us and wanted to see in person. My mom and I were the only ones that went. After a year, she looked so broken and was a different lady than I knew. He started being terrible to her shortly after their move, and when he ended up hitting her, she quickly got away from her too. She apologized to my mom profusely for not listening to her warnings. So this is the same man when I know for a fact he hasn't changed, and thinks he would get to meet up and be around my child. As soon as I said we weren't going to meet his grandchild, he blew up. I started getting messages about how he's going to take me to court for grandparent rights, and I have no right to keep him away from his grandchild, stating that he helped me bring me into this world, that if it wasn't for him, this child wouldn't exist either. I told him that if he had the money to take me to court for a case that would be laughed at and thrown out, then I'm going to take him to court for backlog child support that he owes. That shut him up on the line of argument. So then comes the Bible ranting and telling me that I'm going to heck because my sperm donor not only want to be abusive but also the type of Bible thumping Christian who would only use the Bible for their own agenda. So I blocked him. He had never had my phone number, my email, or my address, so he has absolutely no way of reaching out to me. Sadly though, my mom lives in the same house, and she started living him after she left him, and he knows that. So I'm a bit worried that if he pulls together the money to get here, he's gonna harass my mom. But she can handle herself now, and would just call the police. Edit. Holy moly, I took a nap because of pregnancy, only to wake up to a lot more like and comments in just a couple hours. Well, thanks for everyone to read this mess, and because of some comments, I'll tell you a bit more about what's going on. My sperm donor is broke and is a coward. While he may be violent and willing to harass women, he's scared of men. Heck, he's even terrified of my 87-year-old grandma, his ex-mother-in-law, and she's the reason why he never did anything to my mom after her divorce. Luckily, she's still alive and well, and my mom lives with her to help her around the house. I may not like my grandma much at all times, but I trust her to keep her safe. It does help my mom that my mom is no longer scared of my sperm donor and is willing to stick up to herself now. As for myself, I'm not sure. Being far away from him, I might be all tough, but if she shows up to my door, I don't know what to do. I do know that my husband is 100% willing to 1v1 him. I also know that my sperm donor will tuck tail and flee if he comes face to face with him. Though, because he's, as stated above, he's a coward, and when it comes to men, it also helps that my husband is taller, and he has a good 50 to 60 pounds on him. Now, onto the legal side, he absolutely does not have the money to try anything here. As for grandparent rights, as soon as they read he hasn't been able to even see me, his own daughter, in 13 years, they will shut that case. I'm not worried, but I do have a documentation. My mom still has the documentation from her own case when they were going through her divorce. I don't have much for what he did to my siblings and I, but I do have documentation for the few teachers who met him, along with a statement from the security guard from the school who also had to toss him out a couple of times. Then there's statements from the nurses at the school. I might have not told them where the injuries actually came from, but after talking to them for years, I learned that they had their suspicions, even when they stopped after my father left. So thank you to all who the advice I've been given, but I know I'm safe. I got neighbors who know what to look out for, and I'm really never alone right now. I might have a panic the entire time if she shows up, but I like to believe I hit him with the fist we have. Well, P, I'm glad that you have made precautions for your father if he ever tries to take you to court, and also precautions if he does try to come and take your grandchild away from you, if that ever happens. Although from the sounding of the story, it sounds like he might possibly do that. Entitled mother threatened me to kick out for a few days ago, but is now begging me to stay. For context, my mother is an extremely toxic person. Ever since I can remember, my mom has threatened me to kick out when I was little if I misbehaved. It doesn't matter if I was a small mistake or a little kid, anything would make. She forced me to pack my things in plastic bags, and even going as far to drive me to the police station, showing me where she would leave me if I continued to misbehave. My mom would always continuously act as if I was a difficult child to raise, mostly because of the mental health problems I developed due to her constantly mistreating me as a kid. It was extremely isolating as everyone around me believed that I was a crazy demon spawn child, and she was the poor single mother trying to keep her best to raise a terrible kid, due to the narrative my mom built around me. It was extremely psychologically tormenting to the point where I even started to believe that I was the spawn child that my mother wanted to so desperately paint me as. Now that I am older and no longer idolize my mom, as I used to really resent her, and can see now how she really isn't a good that of a mom, or at least I haven't been that good of a mom around me. She has blamed everyone but herself for the reason I resent her now, and because of that, my mom honestly has a split personalities. It's like one personality is a true one that she doesn't show often, and another is a mask. No one, even therapists, never believes me when I explain the type of abuse my mom has put me through because of how good she is when she's keeping her mask. A few weeks ago, my mom got angry at me and had one of her outbursts where she began hitting me, violently dragging me across the floor, trying to force me out the door. Mind you, it was extremely cold outside and I only had a t-shirt on. She was willing to kick me out of the cold with nothing but a t-shirt and pajama pants on. I fought back against her as best I could. My mom goes to the gym regularly and I'm a hermit, so not in my way. I'm stronger than her physical, but despite this, she still let her try to act like I was the one initiating the fight. After a while of her trying to drag me out of the house and struggling, she gives up and storms out asking me why I'm trying to ruin her life and that I can leave if I hate living with her so much. I'm literally 16 and my mom is speaking to me like I'm a full-grown adult, capable of taking care of myself when that's not the case. I'm dependent on my mom for basic things, and yet she constantly treats me like these things are privileges and she has the right to revoke them whenever she feels like it. I even asked her why she bragged a child into this world if she just going to treat me like this, which she refused to respond. After that, I told my aunt what happened, and she extremely said that to my mom that she would treat me this bad. I never really revealed to my aunt before that my mom treated me like this because my mom would explicitly tell me to not tell my aunt about anything about her, or that my aunt really didn't care about me. She was just using me, which made me distance myself from my aunt, even though she has probably been a better parent / guardian to me than my mom has ever been. She told me I was welcome to stay with her, so I began planning to stay with her. Meanwhile, my mom was still in her fit, telling me that I can live whatever I want. I just can't live with her anymore. But when it came to it, I asked her to give me permission to live with my aunt. Since legally, I can't live with my aunt without my mom's permission. She wouldn't budge, and the next day she had a big fake apology about how she wanted to change her actions, build our relationship back up. I told her that I wasn't gonna work out because if she ever wanted to fix our relationship, she was going to have to go and get therapy to work on herself first. She immediately got angry at me and refused to get help, which is now I knew her apology was never genuine. It was just damage control. So I'm not sure what to do. I know that I can't live with my mom anymore because it's so mentally, physically draining. Throughout the years with her has only worsened with my depression and anxiety to the point that I'm willing to opt that for. I really don't know what to do at this point, and it sucks. My aunt has told me that legally she can press charges on my mom for the bruises, but I told her that I didn't want her to do that since I think it's way too much and my bruises aren't that bad anyways. I don't know what to do anymore. I just really need advice on the best approach to fix the relationship between me and my mom. Honestly, OP, you got to let your aunt push that charge against your mom, because if she's putting bruises on you that her aunt is recognizable as very deadly, and your mom is just faking her apology and just willing to throw you at any time, I think it's best course of action that you let your aunt take your mom to court. Well guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and also turn on notifications whenever you feel like it, and leave a comment down below as well. Anyways guys, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.